Now, since the abomination of desolation is the midpoint of the 70th week of Daniel, the reader is given a chronological benchmark by which the synoptics can be compared to Revelation. We have a benchmark, we have a center point by which we can divide all of the other literature. Now, there are 3 steps in comparing the Synoptic Gospels to Revelation. Step 1, let's compare Revelation 6, 1 through 11 to the Synoptics. Step 2, let's analyze some eschatological sections in Luke. In Luke 21 and 23, he provides a contextual key for establishing a structural benchmark for the midpoint of Daniel's 70th week. Step 3, let's demonstrate thematic and linguistic correlations between the Synoptic Gospels and Revelation 7 through 19. These will evidence the imprint of the Synoptics on the content and structure of Revelation. Now, the first seal. The first seal, you see a rider on a white horse, represents the coming of a false Messiah. He is deceptively like Jesus. And remember that the first sign in the Synoptics describes the beginning of birth pangs as the presence of false messiahs and prophets. Secondly, there is a rider on a red horse. He's given a large sword and power to take peace from the earth. The sword was used in the Old Testament for other eschatological end-time judgment passages. Clearly, this parallels Matthew 24, 6 and 7, and the Synoptics, there will be wars and rumors of wars. The third seal is the rider on a black horse. He brings famine and inflation. He holds scales in his hands. Famine is the result of wars. All 3 synoptic writers list famine as one of the plagues following the turbulence of wars and rumors of wars. The fourth seal is a rider on a pale horse who brings death. Physical death by various causes and fatal pestilences. It tells us 1/4 of population is killed. This aligns very well with the Gospels where it says famines, pestilences, and death are part of the birth pangs. The fifth seal, we see martyrs under the altar, and these martyrs are from the first half of the tribulation. Remember, although there is peace in Israel, there can be great war and conflict and persecution in the world. They are slain for their testimony. It's signified with the sacrificial blood that collects under the altar. The Synoptics warn that persecution and martyrdom are expected during a time of tribulation. They would be hated, betrayed, beaten, imprisoned, and put to death. The sixth seal, we find a great earthquake at the beginning of the seal. Now, prior to the beginning of the seals, the trumpets, and the bowls, there is always a cosmic opening of the throne of God and cosmic phenomenon that shows the portent of God's judgment coming. The sixth seal is a particularly significant one. It is cosmic phenomenon. The sun is darkened, the moon turns blood red. Joel lists several and similar phenomenon in Joel chapter 2. The sixth seal incorporates aspects of the synoptics, from the mid-tribulational events to the coming of Jesus Christ. You see that in the Gospels and in the sixth seal, people flee from persecution. They flee from judgment, which relates to the same time frame as the abomination of desolation. What I want to try and convince you of this morning is that the sixth seal is the midpoint of the tribulation period. It is the transitional time from the tribulation to the great tribulation. And the sixth seal is the declaration to the world that the end has begun and the wrath of God and the Lamb has come. The cosmic phenomenon are signs of the coming of the Son of Man. John uses the sixth seal to introduce the beginning of the end, the great tribulation, a glimpse of the final phase of God's eschatological judgment that has begun to fall on the world. Now, if you look at the textual parallels between the synoptics and the seal judgments, they are undeniable. The beginning of birth pangs follows right along with the first 6 seals, the first 5 seals, transitioning into the 6th seal. And so I think we have undeniable textual parallels. The midpoint of Daniel 9:27 in relationship to the book of Revelation. Now, this is where we're going to go, a syllogism. I'm going to suggest if A equals B, and B equals C, and C equals D, then A equals D. What we're going to see is that there are events described in Daniel 9:27 that are then expanded on B in the Synoptic Gospels, that are then expanded on by Luke in his eschatological passages, that are then also a tangent or touched on in the 6th seal of the book of Revelation. And all of these passages are talking about the same event, the abomination of desolation. They are all talking about the same event, but they are all adding a little more detail and a little more revelation. And if this syllogism is correct, then I think we can establish that benchmark even stronger, the 6th point of the tribulation. Luke intersperses eschatological statements in the closing chapter of his gospel, Luke 17 and Luke 23. In Luke 23:27 through 29, it says this: "And there were following him Jesus," this is down the Via Dolorosa during his crucifixion, "a great multitude of people and of women who were mourning and lamenting. But Jesus, turning to them, said, 'Daughters of Jerusalem, stop weeping for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For behold, the days are coming when they will say, Blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed.'" Now, "for behold, the days are coming." This phrase clearly denotes the eschatological end-time nature of the statement. It is used by Luke and others to introduce prophetic announcements. And it is paradoxical because barrenness was often viewed as a curse or judgment from God rather than a blessing. Now, this is something that would have caught those ladies' attention right away. Blessed it is to be barren? I've been told my whole life it's a curse. I've been told if I am barren that God is judging me. And now you tell me if I'm barren at this time that it is a blessing? The blessedness is the freedom from the encumbrance that pregnancy and small children cause during a time of flight. Luke states positively what he previously stated negatively. Woe to those who are pregnant and with child in this time of flight from the abomination of desolation. Each synoptic writer records the woe version of the warning. The context of the admonition is in view of the persecution that results from the abomination of desolation and the destruction of Jerusalem. People of Jerusalem are warned to flee to the mountains to protect themselves. A woe is pronounced over pregnant women and women with children. Woe, as their flight will be impeded. But blessed are the women free from these concerns. Now, Luke has in mind the time frame of the near destruction of Jerusalem, while Matthew and Mark look towards the final destruction